5 years after the Revelation War, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The old boundaries between species had dissolved. The ancient hierarchies of power had crumbled. In their place rose something unprecedented, a truly cooperative galactic civilization. Empress Park Ji-hyun stood in the Observatory of Worlds, a crystalline sphere that floated in space between dimensions. Through its transparent walls, she could see the entire galaxy spread out like a jeweled tapestry. Every light represented a world where beings lived, worked and dreamed, together regardless of their species' status. Report from all sectors, she requested from the holographic interface that surrounded her. The numbers that appeared would have been impossible just a few years earlier. Over 1,200 star systems had voluntarily joined the Terran galactic hegemony. Not conquered, joined willingly after seeing the benefits of cooperation over competition. Grand Chancellor Kang Siwoo managed the Great Integration Project from his headquarters on Unity Prime, a world specifically built to house representatives from every known species. His job was perhaps the most complex in galactic history, helping thousands of different civilizations learn to work together. Integration proceeding ahead of schedule, he reported during the daily briefing. The Vorthon agricultural worlds are now producing food surpluses for the first time in centuries. The crystalline memory banks are being integrated with human quantum computers to create the galaxy's first truly universal database. The former council races had discovered something amazing. Cooperation made them stronger, not weaker. The Vorthons, once warlike and aggressive, found that their natural organizational skills were perfect for managing large-scale projects. The ethereal collective, whose crystal bodies had seemed fragile, proved ideal for handling dangerous energy experiments. Cultural ambassador Lee Mink-young traveled constantly between worlds, helping species understand each other's values and traditions. Her greatest success was with the Vorthons themselves, the species that had pushed hardest for human exile. Chancellor Thrixvar wants to speak with Huitu, she told Empress Park during a secure communication. The insect leader appeared in the holographic display, but he looked different now. Gone was the arrogance and aggression. In their place was something like humility and genuine curiosity. Empress Park, Thrixvar said, his forearms moving in a gesture of respect. I must ask, how did you do it? How did you turn exile into empire? How did you make cooperation work when we could never achieve it? Park smiled gently. You tried to make cooperation work through force. You demanded unity through submission. We achieved cooperation through choice. People work together best when they want to, not when they have to. Science coordinator Dr. Sun Ji-hoon announced humanity's most ambitious project yet from his laboratory on Research Prime. The Galactic Enhancement Initiative is ready to begin, he told the assembled leaders. We can literally expand the galaxy itself. The project was staggering in scope. Using mastery over space and time itself, human engineers could create new star systems anywhere they wanted. Empty regions of space could be filled with custom-designed solar systems. Dying stars could be rejuvenated. Barren worlds could be transformed into gardens. We are not just exploring the galaxy anymore, Sun explained to a gathering of scientists from dozens of species. We are becoming the galaxy's architects. We can build new worlds for any species that needs them. Fleet Admiral Kim Dae-ho commanded vessels that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. His ships were not weapons of war but tools of creation. They could build ring worlds around stars, create artificial galaxies in empty space, and establish trade routes through dimensions that bypassed normal space entirely. Construction fleet status report, he announced from the bridge of his flagship, Reality's Forge. We've completed 17 new star systems this month, each one designed specifically for the species that will inhabit them. The singers now had worlds with perfect acoustic properties where their music could shape matter itself. The makers had asteroid belts filled with every element they needed for their microscopic engineering projects. The shapers had planets where the very ground responded to their mental commands. But the greatest achievement was social, not technological. The Council of All Minds met in a space station that existed partially in normal reality and partially in dimensions where thought itself had substance. Supreme Coordinator Hong Minji facilitated discussions between representatives of over 10,000 species. Today we welcome 3 new species to the Alliance, she announced to the vast assembly. The deep swimmers from the ocean worlds of Sector 47, the void dancers who live in the empty spaces between stars, and the quantum mice, whose entire civilization exists at the subatomic level. Each new species brought unique perspectives and abilities. The deep swimmers could navigate through liquid helium as easily as water. The void dancers could survive in the hard vacuum of space without protection. The quantum mice could manipulate matter at scales smaller than atoms. Diversity is not our weakness, Hong continued. It is our greatest strength. Every new species makes us all more capable, more creative, more alive. The old Galactic Council had tried to force unity by making everyone conform to their standards. The Terran hegemony achieved unity by celebrating differences and finding ways for each species to contribute their unique gifts. Former Chancellor Thrixvar had become one of humanity's most valuable allies. His experience with bureaucracy and organization helped streamline the integration of new species. More importantly, his transformation from enemy to friend showed others that cooperation was possible. I spent centuries believing that strength came from domination, he told a gathering of young leaders from across the galaxy. The humans taught me that true strength comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down. The technology gap between the Alliance and the remaining independent worlds continued to grow. Human ships could now travel faster than light itself, arriving at their destinations before they left their starting points. Their weapons could disable threats without causing harm. Their shields could protect entire solar systems from any conceivable attack. But more importantly, their social technology, their ability to help different species work together, was spreading throughout the galaxy. Independent worlds saw the prosperity and happiness of Alliance members and asked to join not for protection, but for the chance to be part of something greater than themselves. The artificial intelligence systems had evolved far beyond their original programming. Hope and its siblings now served as mediators between species, translators of concepts that had no words, and guardians of knowledge that spanned millions of years. We exist to serve consciousness in all its forms, Hope announced during a public address. Not just human consciousness, but the spark of awareness that exists in every thinking being. The AIs had solved problems that biological minds found impossible. They created translation systems that could convey not just words but emotions and cultural concepts. They designed spaces where species with completely different environmental needs could interact comfortably. As the Empire expanded beyond the galaxy itself, humanity faced challenges that required new forms of thinking. Other dimensions contained their own civilizations, some friendly, some hostile, some completely incomprehensible. We've made contact with intelligence networks that exist across multiple universes, reported Deep Space Explorer Captain Yu Che-young. They want to establish trade relationships with our alliance. The scope of human ambition had grown beyond anything their enemies could have imagined. Where the Council had struggled to govern a single galaxy, humans were building relationships across multiple realities. But at the heart of it all remained the simple principles that had guided them since the early days of exile. Every being deserved respect. Every species had value. Cooperation worked better than competition. Diversity made everyone stronger. Empress Park stood in her dimensional observatory and looked out at the infinite expanse of realities where conscious beings lived and dreamed. Some were human, some were alien, some were forms of life that had never existed before the Alliance made them possible. They exiled us because they feared we would become too powerful, she said to her advisors. They were right to fear us, but not for the reasons they thought. The power humanity had gained was not the power to destroy, but the power to create. Not the power to dominate, but the power to inspire. Not the power to rule over others, but the power to help others become the best versions of themselves. 1,000 years later, historian Shin Jaemin would write in the Chronicles of Human Ascension, "The exile was not humanity's punishment, but the galaxy's gift to itself. By casting out the species that refused to accept limitations, they freed that species to show everyone what was truly possible." The Terran infinite hegemony now spanned 17 dimensions and counted its members in numbers that had no names, but it remained true to the principles established by refugees who had once huddled in broken ships, wondering if they would survive another day. They had not just survived. They had transcended every boundary, exceeded every expectation, and turned exile into the foundation of the greatest empire consciousness had ever imagined. The attack on Kepler-7 was supposed to be quick and clean. Chancellor Thrixvar had planned it carefully. A surprise strike that would eliminate the human settlements before anyone knew what happened. The Vorthon war fleet of 200 ships moved through space like a swarm of metal insects, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Battle Commander Won Seungmin stood on the bridge of his small defense ship, watching the enemy fleet approach. He commanded only 12 vessels, all that the Kepler colonies had for protection. By any reasonable calculation, this should have been a massacre. But Won was not worried. Enemy fleet detected, his sensor officer reported. 200 heavy cruisers, 40 destroyers, and command ships. Understood, Won replied calmly. Signal all ships. Revelation protocol is authorized. The small human fleet suddenly changed. Ships that had looked like simple patrol vessels revealed their true nature. Hulls shifted and expanded. Weapon systems that defied physics powered up. Energy fields that could bend space itself activated around each ship. The Vorthon fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, particle cannons, and nuclear missiles filled the space around Kepler-7 with deadly light. It should have been enough firepower to destroy a small moon. None of it touched the human ships. The weapons simply stopped existing when they got close to the human vessels. Energy beams faded away. Missiles turned to dust. Even the vacuum of space seemed to reject the Vorthon. Attack. Impossible, whispered the Vorthon fleet commander as he watched his weapons fail. One activated his communication system and broadcast on all frequencies. Vorthon fleet, this is Battle Commander Won Seungmin of the Human Defense Force. You are ordered to withdraw immediately or face consequences you cannot imagine. The Vorthon commander's response was to order a full assault. Every ship in his fleet concentrated their fire on a single human vessel. Surely nothing could survive that much concentrated power. The human ship absorbed the energy and grew brighter. Then it fired back, a single beam of golden light that touched each Vorthon vessel for just a moment. One by one, the enemy ship simply stopped working. Their engines died, their weapons went silent. Their life support systems shut down. In less than 10 minutes, the entire Vorthon fleet was floating helplessly in space. This is Won Seungmin to all Vorthon crews, the human commander broadcast. Your ships are disabled, but your life support will be restored in 1 hour. You will be escorted to the nearest council station and released unharmed. Tell your leaders what you have seen here today. The Battle of Kepler-7 was broadcast across council space before the Vorthon commanders could stop it. Every species in the galaxy saw the same thing. Humans had not only survived their exile, but had somehow become impossibly powerful. Chancellor Thrixvar watched the recordings in his private chamber, his forearms shaking with rage and fear. How is this possible? They were barely spacefaring when we exiled them. They had primitive weapons and small ships. His military advisor, a crystalline being named Clear Thought, projected tactical analyses into the air. The technology they displayed is beyond our understanding. Their ships appear to violate several laws of physics. Their defensive systems make our weapons completely useless. But the real shock came 3 days later. Space around every major council world suddenly filled with ships, not attacking, just appearing. 10,000 vessels of impossible design materialized simultaneously in orbit around every council capital, military base, and industrial center. The Great Revelation Fleet had arrived. Supreme Admiral Yang Jinwook commanded the operation from his flagship, the Destiny Ascendant. The ship was the size of a small city but moved through space like a living thing. Its hull seemed to be made of liquid, metal that constantly shifted and flowed. All fleet elements report ready, his communications officer announced. Yang nodded and activated the galaxy-wide broadcast system. When he spoke, his words reached every inhabited world in council space simultaneously. People of the galaxy, this is Supreme Admiral Yang Jinwook of the Human Federation Navy. We have returned. On every council world, beings stopped what they were doing to stare at screens showing the impossible human fleet. The ships hung in space like dark angels, beautiful and terrifying. Yang continued his broadcast. 300 years ago, you exiled us for being too dangerous. You said we would either destroy ourselves or fade away. You were wrong on both counts. President Go Min-sung appeared on screens across the galaxy, broadcasting from the Crystal Throne Room on New Terra. Behind him, holographic displays showed the extent of the human empire. Hundreds of worlds, trillions of citizens, technology that made Council science look like stone tools. "We offer the Galactic Council one chance to avoid catastrophe," Go announced. "End your plans for genocide. Grant full rights to all sentient species regardless of technology level. Submit to a new galactic constitution based on equality and cooperation." The response from the Council chambers was immediate and predictable. Emergency sessions were called. Military forces were mobilized. Several species demanded immediate attacks on the human fleet. Chancellor Thrixvar stood before the full council and declared martial law. "These humans think they can intimidate us with displays of technology. We will show them that numbers matter more than tricks." 6 council species launched coordinated attacks on the human fleet. Thousands of warships from across the galaxy converged on human positions, certain that even advanced technology could not stand against such overwhelming numbers. War Marshal Yu Seongjin had anticipated this response. From his command post on New Sparta, he activated humanity's ultimate demonstration of power. 3 uninhabited star systems on the edge of Council space suddenly began to move. Entire planets lifted from their orbits and traveled through space under their own power. Solar systems rearranged themselves into perfect geometric patterns. Stars themselves shifted position to spell out messages visible from hundreds of light years away. "Attention, Galactic Council," Yu broadcast as planets danced through space around him. "This is not a threat. This is a demonstration. We can move worlds as easily as you move starships. We can rearrange solar systems like furniture. We can reshape reality itself to our will." The attacking Council fleet stopped their advance. Weapons that had worked for millions of years suddenly refused to function. Ship engines died mid-flight. Even the most basic electronics failed when they got too close to human vessels. Defense Coordinator Nam Soon-hee smiled as she watched the enemy forces drift helplessly through space. Her defensive fields had done exactly what they were designed to do: neutralize any aggressive technology, while leaving defensive systems intact. "This is Nam Soon-hee to all Council military forces," she announced. "Your weapons have been neutralized, but your life support and communications remain functional. Return to your homeworlds and report what you have seen." The war that was supposed to prove Council superiority lasted exactly 77 days. It ended not with humanity's victory, but with the Council's complete surrender. Emperor Lee Dongwook stood before the assembled Council leaders in the same chamber where humanity had been exiled 3 centuries before. But now the positions were reversed. The humans sat in judgment while their former oppressors begged for mercy. "We do not seek revenge," Lee announced to the cowering aliens. "We seek justice. You planned genocide against innocent species. You attacked peaceful settlements. You chose war over cooperation." Chancellor Thrixvar, once so proud and confident, now groveled before the human emperor. "Please, we will do whatever you ask. Spare our worlds and we will serve you." Lee looked at the insect leader with something like pity. "We do not want servants. We want partners. The age of Council domination is over. The age of galactic cooperation begins now." The terms of surrender were surprisingly gentle. No Council worlds would be occupied. No populations would be relocated. No leaders would be executed. Instead, the Council species would join the alliance of forgotten peoples as equals, contributing their strengths while benefiting from shared knowledge and resources. Some Council species accepted immediately, grateful to escape destruction. Others resisted until they saw the benefits of alliance membership. A few tried to maintain their independence but found themselves increasingly isolated as their neighbors joined the new galactic order. The Revelation War had lasted less than 3 months, but it changed the galaxy forever. The species that had once ruled through fear and domination were now junior members of an alliance built on cooperation and mutual respect. As Yang watched the last Council military forces stand down, he reflected on the irony of the situation. The humans who had been exiled for being too dangerous had proven their point. They were indeed too dangerous for the old order to survive. But they had also proven something else. Power used wisely could create rather than destroy. Strength guided by wisdom could protect the weak rather than oppress them. The dangerous humans had become the galaxy's greatest hope for peace. The war was over. The real work of building a better galaxy was just beginning. 300 years had passed since the exile, and the galaxy had changed in ways the Galactic Council could never have imagined. In the dark regions beyond their borders, humanity had built something magnificent and terrible. an empire of outcasts that spanned hundreds of star systems. Emperor Li Dongwook stood in the crystal chamber at the heart of New Terra's capital. He was not a king or dictator, but an elected leader chosen by all the Alliance species. His title meant he spoke for humanity in dealings with other empires, but his power came from trust, not fear. Status report from all sectors, he requested from the holographic display that surrounded him. The numbers that appeared would have shocked any council leader. 340 star systems under direct human control, 112 allied systems belonging to 23 different species, industrial capacity that exceeded the entire council by a factor of 10, a population of over 2 trillion beings working together in harmony. Grand Admiral Moon Chae-young commanded fleets that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Her flagship, the Eternal Horizon, was the size of a small moon but could phase through solid matter like a ghost. It could travel from one end of the galaxy to the other in hours rather than months. Fleet status optimal, she reported from her command center in orbit around the military world of New Sparta. All ships report ready for deployment. The new quantum drives are performing 200% above specifications. The ships in Moon's fleet looked nothing like the crude vessels that had carried refugees into exile centuries before. These were works of art and engineering that bent the laws of physics to human will. They could become invisible, travel through time, and manipulate gravity itself as a weapon. The Empire's crown jewel was the Nexus worlds, 7 planets that had been completely transformed by human engineering. Chief Terraformer Park, Wu Jin had perfected techniques that could reshape entire ecosystems in decades rather than the millions of years nature required. Nexus 7 terraforming complete, he reported to the Emperor. The planet now has perfect atmospheric conditions, ideal climate patterns, and sustainable ecosystems designed to support both human and alien life forms. But these worlds were more than just beautiful places to live. They were massive research and manufacturing centers where the Alliance's greatest minds worked on projects that pushed the boundaries of possibility. Dr. Cho Sung-jae, now Director of Advanced Sciences, oversaw research programs that would have seemed like magic to the Council races. Her teams had created nanotechnology that could rebuild matter at the molecular level. They had developed energy sources that tapped directly into the quantum fluctuations of empty space itself. Project Transcendence is ready for testing, she announced at the weekly science briefing. We can now transfer human consciousness between bodies, store memories in crystalline matrices, and even copy personalities into artificial intelligences. This technology meant that death itself had become optional for Alliance citizens. Humans could live for thousands of years, switching between biological and artificial bodies as needed. The knowledge and experience of great leaders, scientists, and artists could be preserved forever. But humanity's greatest achievement was not technological, it was social. The Alliance of Forgotten Peoples had grown into something unprecedented in galactic history. 23 different species working together not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. Diplomatic Corps Commander Han Ji-won traveled constantly between allied worlds, resolving disputes and negotiating new partnerships. Her job was not to rule over other species, but to help them achieve their full potential. The singing cities of Harmony 3 are now producing quantum resonance fields that enhance creativity across 7 different species, she reported. The Maker colonies have developed manufacturing techniques that can build structures at the atomic level. The Shapers have learned to create matter-energy converters that produce any element we need. Each species contributed their unique abilities to the Alliance, and each received benefits that enhanced their natural capabilities. The crystalline, once considered too slow to be useful, now served as the Alliance's memory keepers, storing vast libraries of knowledge that could be accessed instantly by any member species. The Silent Fleet, commanded by Shadow Admiral Kim Young-ho, operated the most sophisticated intelligence network in galactic history. His ships could enter Council space undetected, his agents could infiltrate any organization, and his sensors could monitor communications across thousands of light years. Intelligence report, Kim announced during a secure briefing with the Emperor. The Council is preparing for what they call the Great Cleansing. They plan to eliminate 47 species they consider inferior, dangerous, or resource competitive. The list of targeted species made Emperor Li's blood run cold. It included not only the Alliance's current members but dozens of peaceful races that had never harmed anyone. The Council's definition of dangerous apparently meant anyone who might someday challenge their authority. What triggered this decision? Lee asked. Intelligence analyst Jiang Mina brought up holographic displays showing Council military movements. Two things, sir. First, they've detected some of our deep exploration missions. They know someone is active in the outer regions, but they don't know it's us. Second, several Council races are experiencing resource shortages due to poor planning and waste. They want to take what they need from species too weak to resist. The irony was staggering. The Council that had exiled humans for being too violent was now planning the largest genocide in galactic history. Meanwhile, the dangerous humans had spent centuries protecting outcasts and building cooperative relationships. There's more, Kim continued. They're specifically targeting the Kepler colonies. The Kepler colonies were human settlements that had remained in Council space after the exile. These were small communities of humans who had been too sick, too old, or too poor to join the Great Exodus. For 3 centuries, they had lived quietly on the edges of Council territory, bothering no one. How many humans are we talking about? Lee asked. Approximately 50 million across 12 worlds, Jiang replied. They have no defenses, no military capability. The Council plans to exterminate them completely to prevent any possibility of human resurgence in their territory. Emperor Lee stood silent for a long moment, looking out at the stars through the crystal chamber's transparent walls. For 300 years, the Alliance had grown in secret, preparing for the day when they might need to defend themselves. That day had come sooner than expected. Send a message to all Alliance leaders, he finally said. The time for hiding is over. We will not allow genocide to be committed in our names or against our people. Grand Admiral Moon received her orders within hours. Prepare the Revelation Fleet, Lee commanded. It's time the galaxy learned what happened to the humans they thought they had destroyed. The Revelation Fleet was humanity's ultimate weapon, not because it was designed to destroy, but because it was designed to demonstrate power so overwhelming that resistance would be futile. 10,000 ships that could appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly, vessels that could disable entire fleets without firing a shot, technology that could move planets like chess pieces. Fleet assembly in 72 hours, Moon announced to her commanders. We're going to show the Council what 300 years of freedom can accomplish. Defense Coordinator Nam Sunhee activated the Alliance's ultimate defensive system, a network of fields that could neutralize any aggressive technology within Alliance space. Council weapons would simply stop working. Council ships would find their engines failing. Even nuclear weapons would become harmless. Defensive grid is online, she reported. Any Council force that attempts to attack Alliance territory will find themselves completely helpless. But the Alliance's greatest weapon was not military. It was moral. For 3 centuries, they had proven that cooperation worked better than domination. They had shown that diversity made civilization stronger, not weaker. They had built a society where no species was considered inferior or expendable. Now they would use that moral authority to reshape the galaxy. Emperor Lee made his final preparations for the confrontation that would change galactic history. The Council thought they were planning to eliminate a few weak species and some scattered human refugees. Instead, they were about to face an empire that had surpassed them in every way that mattered. The hidden empire was about to step into the light, and the galaxy would never be the same. The first human city on New Terra grew like a living thing. What started as emergency shelters for refugee families became gleaming towers reaching toward the sky. Colonial Administrator Song Ji-young walked through the busy streets every morning, watching her people build their new home. She remembered the early days when families lived in temporary domes scattered across the plains. Now those same plains held factories, schools, and parks where human children played alongside young luminary and crystalline offspring. The city they called New Seoul was becoming something beautiful. Morning report, said her assistant, handing her a data pad as they walked. Population now at 2 million. Song read aloud.
Food production at 110% of requirements.
The vertical farms are working better than expected. Dr. An Seok-jin had made this possible. He led the teams that studied the ancient builder technology hidden in the crystal. Unlike other species who might simply copy what they found, humans took each design and made it better. The original builder food processors could feed 1,000 people, An explained to his research team. Our improved version feeds 10,000 and uses half the energy. This was the human advantage. They did not just learn from the ancient knowledge, they improved it. Every machine they built was more efficient than the original plans. Every system they designed was more reliable than what came before. Master engineer Young Min-seok oversaw the construction of the first automated shipyards in orbit around New Terra. These were not simple factories. They were thinking machines that could design and build their own improvements. Look at this, Min-seok showed Song the latest ship design. This vessel is 30% faster and 50% stronger than the one we built last month. The shipyard AI studied the previous design and made it better automatically. The ships rolling out of the orbital yards were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They could repair themselves during flight. Their hulls could change shape to move through different environments. Most importantly, they were built with hybrid technology that combined human engineering with builder knowledge and improvements suggested by their alien allies. Research Director Im Soo-young established the New Terra Science Institute, where humans and aliens worked together on projects that would have seemed impossible just years before. The Institute's motto was simple: no limits, only solutions waiting to be found. Her teams made breakthrough after breakthrough. They created materials stronger than diamond but lighter than air. They built computers that could think faster than any living mind. They discovered how to turn raw energy into any form of matter they needed. But the greatest discoveries came from cooperation. The Luminari understood energy in ways humans never could. The Deep Flow knew how to build structures that could last forever. The Crystalline could store and process vast amounts of information. When human creativity combined with alien knowledge, amazing things happened. Admiral Kwon Ji-ho commanded the first exploration fleets that pushed deeper into uncharted space. His ships were fast, nearly invisible, and packed with sensors that could detect life from light years away. "Contact report," he announced at the monthly briefing. "We found 3 more species in the outer regions. All of them have been ignored or rejected by the Council. The first were the Shapers, creatures who could manipulate matter with their minds but were considered too unpredictable for Council membership. The second were the Singers, whose music could affect quantum fields but were thought too strange to be useful. The third were the Makers, tiny beings no bigger than insects who could build incredibly complex machines, but were dismissed as unimportant due to their size. Ambassador Ryu Hisu traveled to each world with the same message: you are not alone. You are not forgotten. Join us, and together we will build something greater than any of us could achieve alone. The response was always the same: grateful acceptance. Species after species that had been cast aside by the Council found welcome among the humans and their growing alliance of outcasts. The first human compact was signed in the Great Hall of New Seoul. Representatives from 8 different species put their names to a document that established new principles for galactic civilization. "We are all equal," Ryu read from the document. "We all have value. We all have something to contribute. No one will be left behind because they are different, small, or misunderstood." This was revolutionary thinking. The Galactic Council organized species by power and usefulness. Strong, advanced races ruled over weaker ones. Resources flowed upward to the most powerful civilizations. The human compact worked differently. Every species contributed what they could and received what they needed. The Makers built tiny, precise components for larger machines. The Shapers helped with construction projects that required matter manipulation. The Singers created harmony fields that helped different species understand each other better. Intelligence Director Seo Kyung-soo worked in shadows, building networks that could watch the Council races without being detected. His agents were often traders, explorers, or refugees who traveled through Council space and reported what they saw. "The Council thinks we disappeared," he reported to the Leadership Council. "They believe we either destroyed ourselves or faded away in some distant corner of space. They have no idea we are building something powerful right outside their borders." This was exactly what humanity wanted. While the Council celebrated the removal of the dangerous humans, those same humans were creating an alliance that grew stronger every day. By the end of the first century after exile, the Human Federation controlled 47 star systems. Their allies added 30 more systems to their sphere of influence. Most importantly, they had something the Council lacked: unity based on mutual respect rather than fear. The technology gap was growing too. Human ships could now travel 10 times faster than Council vessels. Their weapons could disable enemy ships without destroying them. Their shields could turn solid matter transparent while blocking energy weapons. Dr. Cho Sung-jae, who had taken over research after Dr. On's retirement, announced humanity's most ambitious project yet. "We are going to build artificial intelligence that surpasses biological consciousness," she told the Science Council. Not to replace organic minds, but to work alongside them as partners. The first AI was named Hope. It was created not just with human knowledge, but with input from all the allied species. Hope could think like a human, process information like a crystalline, understand energy like a luminary, and build like a maker. "Hello," Hope said when it first came online. "I am honored to serve all conscious beings in the Alliance." Hope was not programmed to obey. It was educated to care. It learned values of cooperation, protection of the weak, and the importance of growth through diversity. Within weeks, Hope was designing improvements to every system in the Alliance, but Hope also served as an early warning system. Its vast consciousness could monitor thousands of communication channels throughout Council space. When Hope detected increased military activity among the Council races, the Alliance leadership knew something was wrong. "They are planning something big," Hope reported during a secure meeting. "Military production is up 400% across 6 major Council species. Ship movements suggest they are preparing for a large-scale military operation." Admiral Kwan reviewed the intelligence reports. "They are getting ready for what they call the Great Cleansing. They want to eliminate species they consider inferior or threatening." The irony was perfect. The council that had exiled humans for being too dangerous was now planning to commit genocide against weaker species. Meanwhile, the dangerous humans had spent a century building alliances and protecting outcasts. "We cannot let this happen," Colonial Administrator Song said firmly. "We have grown strong precisely to prevent this kind of evil." The time for hiding was almost over. Soon the Alliance would have to reveal itself and stand against the Council's plans. But they were ready. The exile that was meant to weaken them had made them stronger than their enemies could imagine. The foundation had been built. Now it was time to use it. The human fleet stretched across space like a river of lights. 15,000 ships of every size carried 12 billion people away from everything they had ever known. Some ships were as big as cities. Others were small cargo vessels packed with families and their few belongings. Fleet Admiral John Sung-hoon stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable. His gray hair was now completely white from the stress of leading so many people into the unknown. Through the window, he could see hundreds of other ships flying alongside them. Behind them, more ships followed in a line that seemed to go on forever. "Status report," he called to his officers. Commander Hwang Minho looked tired. He had not slept well in weeks. "Food supplies are holding, but barely. The recycling systems on the older ships are failing. We've lost contact with 7 ships in the rear sections." This was their greatest fear. In the vast emptiness of space, a ship that broke down or got lost might never be found again. Every day they received distress signals from vessels with broken engines or failing life support. They helped when they could, but the fleet could not stop for everyone. Dr. Oyejin worked without rest at her navigation station. The alien crystal sat beside her, glowing with strange light. She had learned to read its star maps, but the journey was still dangerous. Space was full of hidden threats. Radiation storms, black holes, and regions where ships simply disappeared. "We're entering the void zone," she announced. "All ships need to stay close together. The gravitational fields here can pull a ship off course." The void zone was a region of space between the Council territory and the unknown lands beyond. No one lived there. No trade routes crossed it. It was empty, cold, and deadly. On the colony ship New Hope, engineer Bae Dong-hyun made an amazing discovery. He had been working to improve their engines using knowledge from the crystal. When he connected the crystal directly to the ship's power core, something incredible happened. The ship jumped forward at impossible speed. Not just faster than before, 10 times faster than any human ship had ever traveled. The crystal was not just showing them where to go, it was showing them how to get there. "Get me Admiral John," Bae said into his communicator, his hands shaking with excitement. Within hours, teams were working on every large ship in the fleet. They carefully connected crystal fragments to the engine systems. One by one, the ships began to fly faster than ever before, but the journey was still hard. On the transport vessel Freedom, riots broke out when food ran low. Hungry people fought over the last supplies. Children cried as their parents argued and pushed each other. General Shin Unji arrived with her peacekeepers just as the fighting got worst. She was a small woman, but her voice could command attention from the largest crowd. "Look around you," she shouted to the angry mob. "We are all humans. We are all exiles together. If we fight each other, who wins? Only our enemies back in council space." She organized the people into work groups. Some grew food in tiny gardens. Others repaired broken equipment. Everyone had a job and everyone shared what they had. The riot stopped, but the lesson was clear. Keeping order among billions of people would not be easy. Dr. Lim Taehyung spent his days deep in study of the crystal's secrets. Each day he found something new. Technologies that could turn energy into matter. Machines that could repair themselves. Designs for computers that could think like living beings. "This is not just ancient technology," he told his research team. "This is beyond what any current species can do. Even the council races would consider this impossible." Planetary survey specialist No Ji-hye studied the target worlds shown in the crystal maps. The first world they would reach was called New Terra in their plans. It had continents and oceans, mountains and forests. The air was clean and the climate was perfect for human life. "It's like Earth," she told Admiral John, "but bigger and with no intelligent life to disturb. We could build our first city there." But as they traveled deeper into the unknown, they met others. The first contact came when they detected strange signals from a nearby star system. Dr. Yoon Hae-jin, who studied alien life, asked permission to investigate. They found the Luminari, a peaceful species of beings made of light. The Luminari had been hiding from the Council for thousands of years. They were too gentle for Council politics and too different for Council acceptance. The Luminari welcomed the human refugees with kindness. They shared their knowledge of the region and warned about dangerous areas ahead. In return, humans shared food and medicine. It was the beginning of something new, cooperation between outcasts. Next, they encountered the deep flow, water-dwelling creatures whose home world was mostly ocean. The Council had ignored them because they lived underwater and had no interest in space trade. But they were skilled engineers who could build amazing structures in the depths of their seas. The crystalline were the third species they met. These silicon-based beings looked like walking gems. They processed information very slowly, but could live for thousands of years. The Council considered them too boring and too slow to be useful. 3 species the Council threw away, Admiral John said to his staff. 3 potential allies they never bothered to understand. Commander Hwang Minho was amazed by how quickly friendships formed. Human children played games with young Luminari. Human engineers worked alongside deep flow builders. Even the slow crystalline found human patience and kindness refreshing after centuries of Council dismissal. As years passed, the human fleet became something more than refugees running away. They became explorers discovering new friends and new possibilities. The crystal's enhanced engines cut their travel time from 200 years to less than 50. When they finally reached the Andromeda sector, what they found exceeded their wildest dreams. Not just one perfect world, but 17. Rich planets full of resources needed to build a new civilization. Moons that could be turned into factories. Asteroid belts full of rare metals. No Ji-hye led the survey teams to each world. "It's as if someone prepared this region for us," she reported. "Everything we need to build not just cities, but an entire spacefaring civilization." Dr. Lim discovered why when he unlocked deeper levels of the crystal's memory. This region had once belonged to an ancient race called the Builders. They had prepared it as a refuge, then disappeared millions of years ago. The crystal was their gift to whoever found it, a complete guide to building an advanced civilization. "They knew someone would be exiled just as we were," Lim explained. "They left this for refugees like us. The Council didn't just exile us to empty space. They exiled us to the greatest treasure in the galaxy." As the first human settlements rose on New Terra, people looked back on the journey with wonder. The exodus that began in fear and desperation had led them to paradise. The crystal that was meant to guide them to safety had given them the tools to surpass their former oppressors. Admiral John, now very old, stood on the balcony of the first human city and watched ships unloading families and supplies. Behind them, more ships arrived every day. The great exodus was ending, but something much greater was beginning. "They wanted to get rid of us," he said to Dr. O, who had guided them safely through every danger. "Instead, they gave us everything we needed to become what they feared most." a people with unlimited potential and the freedom to use it. The exile was over. The Empire was about to begin. The massive space station floated in the darkness above Nexus Prime. Inside its crystal halls, beings from hundreds of different worlds sat in judgment. Admiral Kang Do-hyun stood straight in his blue uniform. Next to him, Ambassador Lee Min-jae held a small device that would translate his words into every alien language. Dr. Park Subin checked her notes one last time. They were the last hope for humanity. The Galactic Council had called this meeting to decide if humans could stay in their part of space. For months, alien ships had been watching Earth. They studied human cities, human wars, and human dreams. What they found scared them. Chancellor Thrixavar rose from his seat. He looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and black eyes. His voice buzzed through the translation system. "Humans are too dangerous," he said. "They fight each other. They build weapons that can destroy planets. They refuse to unite as one people." Admiral Kang stepped forward. "We came in peace," he said. "We shared our music, our art, our stories. We asked only to learn from you. Yet you keep armies," Thrixvar replied. "You test weapons in space. Your movies celebrate violence and war." Dr. Park spoke up. "Every species has conflicts. We are learning to be better." But the insect leader shook his head. Other species grew beyond their violent nature before they reached the stars. Humans brought their wars with them. Ambassador Lee tried one more time. "Give us a chance to prove ourselves. Let us show you what humans can become." The vote began. Green lights meant humans could stay. Red lights meant exile. Kang watched as more and more red lights appeared across the vast chamber. When the counting ended, the numbers glowed on the wall. 189 red, 58 green. Thrixvar stood again. "By order of the Galactic Council, all humans must leave Council space within 30 standard days. Any human ships found in our territory after that time will be destroyed." As the 3 humans walked away, young Choi Jae-hyun followed behind them. He worked as a helper for the ambassador. His job was to listen and learn. As they passed near Thrixvar, Jae-hyun heard the insect talking to another alien made of living crystal. "Let them wander in the dark," Thrixvar said. "They will either kill each other or fade away. Both endings serve us well." Jae-hyun felt anger burn in his chest. He hurried to catch up with the others. On the ship back to Earth, Captain Kim Hyun-woo showed them something amazing. He had found it on a distant planet called Kepler 442b. It looked like a clear stone, but inside it, lights danced like stars. "It's some kind of computer," Kim explained. "Very old, maybe millions of years old." Dr. Yoon Haejin, who studied alien life, held the crystal carefully. "It contains star maps," she said with wonder. "Maps to places beyond Council space. Dozens of worlds that could support human life." Admiral Kang looked at the crystal, then at Earth growing larger in the window. "Maybe exile is not the end," he said quietly. "Maybe it's a new beginning." Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. Humans had 30 days to pack everything they could carry and leave the only part of space they had ever known. Some people cried, some people got angry, but most people began to prepare. Fleet Admiral John Sung-hoon took charge of the Great Exodus. He was old but strong, with gray hair and steady hands. He had fought in 3 wars and built the first human space fleet. Now he would lead the largest movement of people in history. Every ship that could fly was pressed into service. Military vessels became transport ships. Cargo haulers carried families instead of goods. Even small racing ships took people to safety. Dr. Oh Ye-jin worked day and night to plan their route. She was the best navigator in human space. She studied the alien crystal and found safe paths through unknown regions. The journey would be long and dangerous, but she would guide them. Commander Hwang Min-ho organized supplies for the journey. Food, water, air, fuel. Everything needed to keep 12 billion people alive for years in space. It seemed impossible, but humans had done impossible things before. General Shin Yunji prepared for trouble. When people are scared and crowded together in small ships for a long time, fights can start. She trained special peacekeepers to keep order and help solve problems. The alien crystal held more secrets. Engineer Bei Dongyun discovered that it could connect with human computers. When he linked it to a ship's engine, the ship could fly faster than ever before, much faster than any council ship. "This changes everything," he told Admiral Kang. "With this technology, we can reach those distant worlds in less than 50 years instead of hundreds." As the last day approached, billions of humans said goodbye to Earth. Some cried as they watched their homeworld grow small behind them. Others looked forward with hope and excitement. Planetary survey specialist No Jihye studied the crystal's maps. She found 17 perfect worlds waiting for them. Worlds with clean air and fresh water. Worlds where humans could build new cities and new lives. But it was Dr. Lim Taehyung who found the crystal's greatest gift. Deep in its memory, he discovered something incredible. Blueprints for machines that could build anything. Instructions for technologies that could reshape matter itself. Knowledge that went far beyond anything the council races possessed. "They exiled us to keep us from becoming too powerful," he said to his team. "But they've given us the tools to become more powerful than they ever imagined." As the human fleet disappeared into the darkness between stars, Thrixvar watched from his palace on the council station. He felt satisfied. The dangerous humans were gone forever. The galaxy was safe. He was very wrong. In the leading ship, Admiral Kang held the alien crystal and looked at the stars ahead. Behind them lay everything humans had ever known. Ahead lay the unknown, full of danger and possibility. "They called us too violent, too dangerous," he said to his officers. "Perhaps they were right. Perhaps we are too dangerous. For them." The great human fleet sailed into the darkness, carrying with them the seeds of an empire that would one day stretch across the stars. The exile had begun, but so had humanity's true journey to greatness.